Hi, let's take a quick look at how Caspio applications can automate workflows and integrate with external systems. Using Zapier, Caspio can connect to thousands of popular apps, allowing your applications to trigger actions, sync data, and extend functionality without custom coding. Let's take a look. Okay, so as with all the other videos, I always like to give you a live demo so that you know exactly what we plan on developing in today's video. And in my simple use case, I have a patient portal where doctors can log in, see a list of patients, and just a heads up, this is all fictitious data, sample data. There's no actual PHI or PII in today's demo. And what the doctor can do is click on the details for each patient and be able to book an appointment. Now, what I want to happen is when I set up the first appointment, I want to be able to see that appointment in my Caspio application, but at the same time, I would like to be able to see it inside my Google Calendar. In addition to that, if I make an update to my appointment, I also want to be able to see that update in my Google Calendar. And finally, last but not least, if I delete the appointment, I also want that to be removed from my Google Calendar. So let's see it in action. I will set up a new appointment for Susan Lee. And let's say reason for visit can be high blood pressure, appointment date can be tomorrow, and then appointment time maybe 1 p.m. I'll hit submit. As you can see, we can see the appointment in my Caspio application, but at the same time, we can now see it inside the Google Calendar as well. It'll take a few seconds for the data to show up. A lot of times it's instantaneous, but sometimes it does take up to a second, maybe 5 seconds for you to now see that in the external application. Next, let's go ahead and make an update. If I click inside the details for that appointment, I will be able to see the reason for visit. I could also show that as a summary over here as well, but I decided to have it as a description when I click inside the actual appointment. Now let's make an update. And let's say we move this appointment for Friday. I'll hit update. Okay, so the date changed in my Caspio application. Now back inside the Google Calendar, you can see that we have now moved that appointment for Friday. And finally, let's go ahead and delete that appointment. Last but not least, let's go ahead and delete it. Once you delete it, go back to your Google Calendar. Let's go ahead and reload. And you can now see it missing. Now, in my video today, I've made this as a one-way street, where the trigger happens inside the Caspio application. You create new appointment, update, and delete. And when you trigger that, the action is performed in the Google Calendar. However, keep in mind that you can also create an appointment here inside the Google Calendar and have that data be written inside your Caspio application. So it can work both ways. In my video, I'm only doing it one way. Okay, so now let's talk about the setup in our Caspio table. So inside the table, I have a field called Google Event ID. You can call this field anything that you want. This is just my own personal preference. And the reason why I've added this field to my table is because the Google Calendar, if you're making an update in your Caspio application to your appointment, Google needs to know for what appointment are you making an update for. So when you initially create the appointment, what we do is we send a Google Event ID from the calendar to your Caspio table in order to associate the appointment with the Google appointment. So now Google knows, okay, yeah, so you're updating the appointment for this specific Google Event ID. If you're not making any updates, let's say you just want to create a new appointment in the Google Calendar without the ability to update, then you don't need the Google Event ID field inside your table. All right, so with that said, now let's see how these zaps were created on the Zapier side. So as you can see, I have 3 separate zaps created. One when a new appointment is created, updated, and deleted. First, let's take a look at the new appointment. Okay, so the trigger is going to happen on the Caspio side, meaning when a new record is created in Caspio, perform other actions using Zapier. So let me click on this just to show you how this was done. Let's click Edit. Initially, you will be inside the Setup tab, and Zapier is going to ask you to connect your Caspio account, and it's going to ask you for 3 bits of information. You will need your client ID, your client secret. You can find that under Web Services Profiles, And you will also need your Caspio integration URL. You're going to copy that information and paste that inside the Zapier pop-up window, which you'll see. And then when you connect, you will now be able to see Caspio listed here as your application. The trigger event is going to be based on new record, meaning so when you create an appointment in Caspio, that's a new record being created. That's when you trigger other actions. Okay, so let's move down to configure. You're going to choose your appointments table. The event sources are going to be data parts and data sheet, meaning when you submit the form, which is a data part, that's the trigger. And also if you're inside a table in the data sheet and you make a modification, that's also going to be a trigger. Now let's take a look at the action. We want that data to be stored in our Google Calendar. The first thing you're going to do is connect your Google Calendar to your Zapier account. You want to be able to include the fields that you want as summary. I have patient name, an appointment time, and in my description, I have reason for visit. You will include your date field and make a few more modifications here. It's completely up to you. For example, use default reminders. I said no because we can send reminders from our Caspio applications. And finally, we have to update the record on the Caspio side. So when a new appointment is stored in our Google Calendar, we want Google to write back the event ID in our appointments table so that we can associate the appointment in our Google Calendar to the appointment in our Caspio table. So data source is going to be tables. You're going to choose your appointments table, filter by appointment ID, and at the value, we want to locate that appointment ID so that Google knows, okay, for that appointment, we want to be able to store the Google event ID inside the appointments table. Just come down here, you will find your field Google event ID from your appointments table. All you're going to do is locate the ID from this dropdown and just go ahead and select that. You're going to click continue or finish and publish. And now what's going to happen is when a new record is created or a new appointment on the Caspio side, we're going to store that information inside the Google Calendar and simultaneously store back the Google event ID for that appointment in your appointments table. Let's go back out to our Zaps. Take a look at the one for update. Okay, so when a record is updated in the Caspio side, let's edit the Zap. You're going to go to setup first, and then you're going to be able to see trigger event, and you're going to choose when the record is updated. Okay, meaning when you update the appointment on the Caspio side, we also want to update that on the Google side. Under configure, let's go ahead and take a look at this as well. We have our appointments table. Event sources are going to be data sheets and data parts. And then you're going to go to Google Calendar. And same as before, you're going to just include the fields that you wish to now update on the Google side. But one thing that's important here is to add a search step. I've already added it here. You can see it. And what you want to do is to include the Google event ID from your Caspio appointments table. So that is important so that Google knows, okay, we're making an update for that specific ID. Once again, you're going to include the fields that you want in the rest of the settings. And when you're done, you're going to click continue or save and publish. And now the update is going to work accordingly. And the final Zap that we have is when something is deleted on the Caspio side. So when the record is deleted, let's edit the Zap. You start off here under setup, and you're going to choose the event when the record is deleted. Then under configure, once again, we have data sheets and data parts. And on the Google side, again, you want to add the search step, include the Google event ID. You want to notify the attendees. It's up to you. You can also do that on the Caspio side. And that's it. Now it knows what event to delete. There's nothing to map out here. There are no fields to update. So this is a very simple configuration. You're going to click continue or save and publish. And now all three of the Zaps will work accordingly. And again, as I mentioned earlier in my video, this is a one-way street so that trigger happens on the Caspio side when the appointment is created, updated, and deleted. And then we perform the action on the Google side to update, add new, or delete the appointment. Thanks for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed it. For additional information and tips and how-to on Zapier integration, visit our howto.caspio.com. I'll see you in the next video.